my God, Jorge's so emotional this week on Canada's Drag Race. You know, I don't expect to be raked over emotional coals every time I turn on the TV. I'm just so... Oh, hey! Hi! It's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, with the Fingerdoo review of Canada's Drag Race. And before we get started, I've got to produce to thank this week. Because there were delays in filming because I was working on Knock Knock Ghost this weekend, there were a couple of extra to produce than usual. So I'm just going to thank them right now. Victoria Day, darling, thank you so much for your tip. So sweet of you to think of me. Thor Lilliquist. Oh, I love that name, Thor. Makes me want to put on a metal bra and some horns. Seriously, Thor. I'm also sending out a great big thank you to Oddjetvic. Thank you so much for your tip this week as well on PayPal. And Susan Nikolai, you were there too. God bless you. Thanks again. And we had a Preston Firestone. I've got to say, Preston, I think that's one of my favorite names, just because it sounds so impressive. You should be a CEO of something fabulous. I hope truly, though, that you're a hippie not wearing pants right now in your own home. That's what I hope, Preston. Anyway, I also want to send a thank you out to Vito Bocuzzi. Thank you so much, Vito. And again, so nice to see your name pop up, whether it's on my YouTube feed or in the Tipperdoo zone. You heard me. And Denise Janot, I want to send her a thank you. She tipped me this week. But now, as you all may know, or maybe you don't, Denise has done some beautiful sketches, pen and ink illustrations of yours truly, and they're finally up on Redbubble. If you're interested in getting any, now Viking Bitch One, who's a Patreon subscriber, she's in my credit roll at the end of the video. She already got a set of prints, and every dollar that I get from those prints are going to Rainbow Railroad. Now, what I think is fabulous is that Rainbow Railroad is a great charity, but then we found out this week that Canada's Drag Race thinks it's a great charity too. So I just thought it was absolutely great to see a charity that I really believe in popping up on Canada's Drag Race. Now, the reason that I picked Rainbow Railroad for a charity to support in collaboration with Denise and her fabulous drawings is because Denise lives in Holland. I live in Canada, and a lot of you finger-doers out there aren't in either of those two places. Some of you are, but a lot of you aren't. So I thought, what's the best way to help the community globally? Rainbow Railroad. So if you're interested, the link is down below. You can order any or all of the prints. They're limited as to what they're on. Like, you can get on a coffee mug, but you don't need it on a travel mug or a phone case. But there's shirts, prints, there's even an apron, I'm just saying. So that's down below. Have a look at that. Also, before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you haven't, what the heck's wrong with you? And I also want to say, make sure that you like the video at the end unless you didn't. If this is a horrible video, then you probably won't get to the end and you won't hear me remind you anyway. So we're all good. And now, Jorge, drink me. Ooh, look at you. Is this a cranberry and soda? Mm-hmm. Well, mostly vodka. I think the cranberry is just there for color. Delish. Okay, so let's get to it. Well, we started this episode off by saying goodbye to Ilona. God bless her. And what was a shocker about this was, well, how much shade she got served. It's so like us Canadians to wait till somebody's left the room before we read them to film. Of course, Lemon was congratulated for her second win, but if she thinks that that's going to stop the shade she's been feeling from those other queens, she better think again. Bobo, whose face hadn't moved since it was announced that she was safe, seemed to be less worried about winning a challenge now and more focused on just getting to the finale without having to lip sync at all. I think that's a good plan. Priyanka, who seemed genuinely surprised to have just been in the bottom, could feel the other queens thinking that she would be the next queen to sashay away. So her plan of attack was simple. Just win the next challenge. I'd say no pressure, but seriously, at this point, with only 5 queens left, they were all starting to sweat. And that's never a good look. The next day, it was a slap in the face for the queens how empty the workroom was feeling. Top 5, something to be proud of. But clearly, it wasn't enough for these queens, so they started racking up their achievements. Priyanka had 1 win. Lemon had 2. Rita, 3. Jimbo, 1. And Bobo, none. At all. Which Rita was okay with. Speaking of shade, it seemed that all had been forgiven between Jimbo and Rita since the old prom queen had called Grandma out for dunking her head in the toilet. But before they could revisit the issues, there was Rue's video message and the return of old Bus Pants. But this time he was wearing pants that were screaming flood. Am I the only one seeing it? But JBC wasn't here to talk about his ensemble. He was here to give the queens this week's mini challenge. They had to grab a puppet, dress it up like one of the other queens, and then read it to filth. Why? Because everyone loves puppets. Until you don't. One by one, the queens had to stick their fist into a big old hole in a fuzzy box, you heard me, and pull out a puppet. Because Lemon had won last week's challenge, she went first, and she pulled out Priyanka. Priyanka went next and pulled out Lemon. Jimbo went next and pulled out Scarlet. Scarlet pulled out Rita, and then Rita, well, she got Jimbo. Dum, dum, dum. Right away, the queens tarted up their puppets and let the insults fly. Lemon tore Priyanka a new one when she asked her puppet why she always asks everyone to say her name, and she said it was because she didn't want anyone to think she was Tainomi or a threat. Priyanka's Shade Fest wasn't near as shady as Lemon's. I mean, her biggest read against Lemon was her hairline. Okay. Jimbo got Scarlet Bobo, and I thought she was going to go all in with Scarlet, but actually, all she did was help her out with her filler. Poly filler, that is. Then it was old Pumped and Plump's turn, and not only did she have Rita's accent down, but she also revealed Rita's secret desire to make lemonade with her bare hands. I mean that in the sexy way. Finally, it was Rita's turn, and she held nothing back where Jimbo was concerned. She even reenacted Jimbo's rant against JBC right there in front of JBC. You see, that's something that Payback and Rita have in common. They're both a bitch. And when the queen's fists were finally removed from the now not-so-innocent puppets, it was announced that Scarlet Bobo was the winner of the mini-chip. Is that right? Scarlet Bobo finally won something? Well, go on Scarlet. I mean, better a mini than nothing at all. And then it was time to get the Kleenex because this week's Maxi Challenge took me through it. JBC told the queens all about a fabulous Canadian charity that's making a difference globally, the Rainbow Railroad. They help members of the LGBTQI community escape social and physical persecution from countries that criminalize being queer, including those that still have the death penalty. Seriously, this is the reason I support Rainbow Railroad. They're fabulous. So why all this talk about the Rainbow Railroad? Well, this week the queens had to make over a recipient of the Rainbow Railroad's good works and turn them into a member of their drag family. All right, cue the Kleenex. Oof. I don't have Kleenex, just used to. At least it's not toilet paper. Because Bobo had won the mini challenge, she got to assign the partners. Now, it's very clear that this is a very diverse group of Rainbow Railroaders and cast members from Canada's Drag Race, but clearly there was an imbalance of skin tones. So some of these makeovers were going to have to rely more on nurture than nature. But I think for the most part, Bobo picked really good partners for everybody. The one thing that impressed the hell out of me, though, was her picking Dennis for herself right out of the gate. Like, this is who I'm going to use. Not only could their skin tones have been further apart from each other, but it's hard for people to do makeup on other people in general. We're so used to just doing it. It takes us so long to get used to doing it in a mirror on our own face. And then to turn around and do it on somebody else, now your hand's in a different position. It can be quite a challenge. On top of that, to do somebody of a different skin tone. I mean, most of us are used to the makeup we have. We deal with our skin tone. At least here on Canada's Drag Race, Anastasia Beverly Hills supplied them with some makeup options, so they weren't rooting around their dance bags. Seriously. So, as the queens got to know their new drag daughters, old bust pants himself, JBC, showed up for a visit. His first stop was with Rita and Rainer, who was in very good hands because Rita's raised 6 drag daughters herself already. But something that I was very surprised to hear from Rainer was that Drag Race isn't allowed on TV in Indonesia. I mean, on top of everything else, these poor lambs have to deal with censorship too? Seriously. But that's all behind Rainer now because he and his husband, Eka, are living in Canada, free to be whoever the heck they want to be. But right now, Eka was competition because he's over there on Team Jimbo. Way to stay focused, Rainer. Seriously. Scarlett's drag daughter Dennis had already picked out a brand new name, Violet. But JBC was worried that their costumes were looking a little basic. Something that wasn't basic, though, was the good work that Dennis had done in Uganda to get his fellow LGBTQI brothers and sisters out of the country before he joined Rainbow Railroad himself. Well done, Violet. Jimbo and Eka were almost done their transformation by the time JBC showed up. Eka was padded and tucked for the gods, and he looked fantastic from the neck down. I mean, even with a boy face as pretty as Eka's was, that's a little jarring, that close to boobs, that big. What? Elton had already picked out his new drag name too. It was Elektra. And as a fan of Priyanka, Elektra already knew what was expected of him, which apparently was to go around without his shirt on, which I'm okay with. Lastly, JBC popped in on Lemon and Rebel, who were kikiing like kittens. I have to say, it was very lovely to see Rebel having so much fun with Lemon because it didn't sound like he had a lot of fun living as a terrified gay man in Syria. I'm so serious. But now that he's living in Canada, it looks like fun is a regular visitor at his house. Sure, it's not the only one either. And then it was time to wipe the smile off those faces and rehearse for the runway. And by that I mean put on heels. Priyanka and Elektra went first. And I have to say, I really love Priyanka's coaching style. Constantly talking, reminding her about things, reminding why we're looking, where we're looking, all of that talking and moving all at the same time. Plus the fact that Elektra seemed so comfortable in her heels. It looked like this was going to be a good week for Team Prolectra. Seriously. Lemon and Lime were next, and as cute as that name was, Lime was getting the squeeze from those heels, let me tell you what. I haven't seen anyone walk that awkwardly in heels since Kimchi on season 8. Seriously. Jimbo and Bimbo were feeling it all the way down to the tippy toes of their hooker boots, which says a lot because they were wearing an awful lot of flannel as well, I'm just saying. As far as Bimbo's ability to walk in heels, well, it was no worse than Jimbo's. I suspect that Terry Bagger, Rita's latest drag daughter, was feeling a little horsey off the top, but she did throw a shoe. But Rita's coaching had her prancing in no time, as if there was ever any doubt. Scarlett Bobo's drag daughter, Violet, was feeling her fantasy. Unfortunately, that fantasy was to walk like a man in heels, which was surprising because Violet had no trouble walking in heels right out of the gate. Clearly, Bobo was going to have some walk sissying to do. Seriously. The next day, the queens and their daughters had to get ready for the runway, but there was still a lot to do. Lemon had to tame Lime's eyebrows, and Priyanka had to shave Elton. Hell, I'd be okay with shaving Elton. Scarlett Bobo revealed that she used to be a makeup artist, so matching skin tones and working on somebody else's beat wasn't new to her. So Violet was in good hands, just saying. Something that was news to me was Rainer saying that as recently as 2016, there were police raids being held in Indonesia against LGBTQI people. And Dennis saying that recently 125 people were arrested just for going to a gay-friendly bar. It's shocking that you think that this is the way some people are living in this day and age. But I have to say, I think Dennis made an excellent point that we should all take a minute to remember, especially when we're not at our best. It's that people that leave a country to try and have a better life somewhere else don't make that decision lightly. It's not something that the family sits down and talks about. Sometimes the decision is made in the moment. And these people then are going to a new country where in some cases they're being met with prejudice and hate, and it's all coming from a different level altogether. So it can add to that stress and that pressure and just that mental imbalance. So the next time you're particularly feeling a little entitled in your country of birth, take a minute to remind yourself that your country is so good that somebody else gave everything away just to live there. Just saying. And then it was time for the runway, thank goodness, because now I'm starting to run out of paper towel. I'm just saying. This week's guest host was the fabulous Amanda Brugel, star of The Handmaid's Tale and awesome hair flips everywhere. And this week's runway category was Family Affair. Up first, Priyanka and Elektra. And they look good. I don't know if I felt they looked like they came from the same family, but they definitely looked like they were in the chorus line of the same show, if you know what I mean. But regardless of that, Elektra's transformation was fabulous. Look at her there, feeling all her oats. You go, Elektra. Seriously. I hate to admit this, but I was a little disappointed in Scarlett's makeover of Violet. I expected more face on Violet for some reason. Her makeup came off as more subtle than Scarlett's own. And was that Scarlett's idea of dressing up two unitards by throwing fringed pleather jackets over them? This isn't Camp Wanakiki. Seriously. They look like two Russian acrobats trying to defect inside a gay leather bar. No offense. Unless, of course, that was the look she was going for. And then, well done. I loved Lemon and Lime as a mother-daughter team. It's just that Lemon clearly was the daughter. Not that Lime looked bad. She just needed a little softening. That green wig was a little severe, if you ask me. What, no one did? Well, then it was a freebie. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I absolutely hated Rita's runway as well. Oh my God. I mean, I get it that Terry was the younger, more colorful one, but the fact that she was colorful and Rita was all in gray tones distanced their family resemblance ability even more. And although they had similar makeup, the colors were different, the wigs were similar, but the shapes were different. Their outfits weren't even close to the same. So their silhouettes were very different. I mean, it was a very disappointing turnout by Ms. Baga, but the only excuse I can give her is that those first 6 drag daughters of hers must have really taken it out of her. Seriously. I would like to take a moment right now to mention Brooklyn Heights' comment about not getting Quebec sitcoms, especially for non-Canadians out there who might not know what she's talking about. Here's the thing. I don't know why, but in Canada, French TV is different, especially comedy. I don't know how to explain it, except that it's different and in a lot of times hard to understand. It's probably because it's in French. Last but not least was Jimbo and Bimbo. And I just have to say, never before in the history of my watching Drag Race have I ever been more worried about young people watching an episode without adult supervision or the more important post-viewing chat before in my life. Those hookers made me feel uncomfortable. And then it was time for the judges' critiques. Up first, Priyanka and Elektra, whom the judges loved, which is probably the reason they made no mention of those thirsty wigs, I'm just saying. Lemon and Lime were adorable, of course, but the judges were expecting more from them and made mention that Lime looked older than Lemon. Well, she is. Hell, puppies are older than Lemon. As for Scarlett and Violet, the judges hated their outfits, as well they should have. But they were super impressed by Scarlett picking a partner with a different complexion, and even more impressed at the makeup job that Scarlett did. So much so that JBC said that Scarlett could do his makeup anytime. Could she start now? Amanda Brugel was so impressed by Jimbo's sewing skills that she put in a standing order immediately for one of his pleather Handmaid's Tale outfits. Stacy, on the other hand, agreed with me. She thought that their runway presentation was a little too sexual. I love you, Stacy. Last but not least was Rita and Terry Baga. And although the judges could see a family resemblance in their outfits, they did not think their outfits were even remotely up to snuff with the rest of the other queens. So, with that cold slap of reality, everyone frigged off to the Untucked Lounge. As the queens untucked, it became clear to Rita that she would be landing in the bottom two, and Jimbo, who obviously holds a grudge, was okay with that. Lemon felt that it could be her or Scarlett in the bottom, along with Rita, which was a surprise to Scarlett. Hell, it was even a surprise to Priyanka, who spoke up and said that she thought Scarlett had had a good critique. Go on, Priyanka, shine that light. Back on the main stage, it was announced that Priyanka had redeemed herself and had won this week's main challenge, and that a $10,000 donation was going to be made to Rainbow Railroad in her name. What was sad, though, was that Rita and Lemon were in the bottom. Quel dommage. Right away, this lip sync was a bit of a challenge, if you ask me, because it was to Alanis Morissette's You Oughta Know. It's not a dance number. It's not poppy. And the words are a little erratic and off-tempo sometimes. So it just has challenges within itself. But that did not stop Lemon from throwing a split or two in there. I'm so serious. Rita, on the other hand, performed the snot out of this song. What she did was pure theater. And as beautiful as Lemon is, I could not take my eyes off of Rita. She emoted. She stared the judges down. It was brilliant. So when the music died, it was no surprise to me that Rita had won. But what was a surprise was that Lemon sashayed. I just felt that the judges really liked Lemon. I felt that, she just won a second win. I thought because this challenge involved a charity like the Rainbow Railroad, that it would just be natural to expect there would be no elimination this week. But no, Canada's Drag Race plays a hard game, let me tell you what, and it was Lemon who sashayed away this week. Well, there you have it. 4 queens are left. Are you upset that Lemon went? Do you think Rita should have gone? Do you think that there should have been another person in the bottom besides Lemon? If so, do you think it should have been Scarlett Bobo? All I can say is I have no idea what to expect for next week now. I kind of thought that it was going to be down to a certain number of people. Now, I want to say that I picked Jimbo, Rita, and Scarlett for the top 3 in my Meet the Queens video. And I picked Priyanka as a wild card. I said she could win it. She could end up there. Depends how it goes. Depends how challenges and that are all played out. But there we go, top 4. Who do you think's going to go next week? Do you think it's Scarlett? Do you think it's someone else? Do you think that they'll go to the finale with 4 queens? All we can do is tune into Canada's Drag Race next week to find out. And then when you're done, you come on back and you see me so you and I can compare notes. Now, please don't forget to like this video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And if you would like to support the channel, please visit all the links down below in the description box, including the link to Denise Jarneau's collection on my Redbubble page of her Wilma Fingerdoo inspired illustrations. They're just gorgeous. And all the proceeds from those illustrations that they send to me will be going directly to Rainbow Railroad. Well, there you go. That's it for another week. Until next week, miss me. Mwah! Seriously. I love a classic summer cocktail. Yummy.